from being buried alive to getting hit by a car on stage in front of a large crowd. We take a look through 10 magic tricks that went horribly wrong. Number 10. The Great Lafayette. Believed to be the highest paid entertainer of his time, the flamboyant magician, whose real name was Sigmund Neuberger, by the way, met his untimely death in Edinburgh in the notorious Empire Palace Theatre fire of 1911 while performing his signature Lion's Bride illusion, which involved him swapping places with a live lion. Such was Lafayette's hold on the public that when a stage lamp fell and ignited the set as he took his final bow, the audience assumed this was all part of the show. They just sat there and watched while the illusionist, 10 other crew members, and a menagerie of animals, including that unfortunate lion, were incinerated as the orchestra struck up the national anthem. Number 9. Madame de Linsky and the Bullet Trick. The wife/assistant of a Polish magician had a routine where she faced a firing squad of 6 soldiers. Back in the early 19th century, rifles were loaded by biting an open cartridge, pouring the gunpowder in the barrel, then jamming the rest of the cartridge down the barrel with a ramrod. In the Delinsky version of the trick, the soldiers were shills, paid and secretly instructed to bite away the whole bullet and load in a blank. But in the fatal performance, one of the riflemen apparently got nervous being on stage and reverted to his usual way of loading the gun. When the bullet hit Madame de Linsky in the abdomen, several audience members fainted. Madame died 2 days later. Adding to the tragedy, she was pregnant and lost her unborn child. Her husband was eventually driven mad from the shock of the accident. Number 8. John Miller and the Vanishing Trick. Born John Miller in Helsingborg, Sweden, Balabrega went to America in 1868 with his family. In January 1900, Balabrega made a tour to Brazil for showing off his magical skills to the audience there. He bought the moth in the flame illusion from one of his fellow performers, Harry Rouclair. For this pyrotechnic vanishing trick, Balabrega had to be very careful because it required large bags full of combustible gas. During that act, a gas bag exploded and Balabrega and his assistant, Lou Bartlett, died on the spot. Number 7. William Ellsworth Robinson and the Bullet Trick. An American man named William Ellsworth Robinson built a world-renowned career by pretending to be the noted Chinese magician Chung Ling Soo. The crafty magician maintained his facade through a decade-spanning career. Much of Robinson's fame was built by performing a dangerous trick called the bullet catch, in which the performer catches a bullet in his teeth. Sadly, on March 23, 1918, the trick went horribly wrong. The greatest magician died because he had failed to maintain his equipment, clogging a hidden chamber and resulting in a real bullet being fired. After spending more than 30 years claiming not to be able to speak English, he ended his distinguished life by shouting, "My God, I've been shot!" Number 6. Joe Burris's Buried Alive. Many magicians have performed tricks that involve being buried alive. However, San Francisco escape artist Joe Burris learned a little too late the importance of careful preparation while trying to emulate their feats. The eager magician was bound in chains and handcuffs before being placed in a plexiglass coffin. After being lowered 7 feet into the ground, a chained-up Burris waited while assistants directed a cement truck to unload its contents over the coffin. After one false start, the chain around his neck was too tight. Burris made a second attempt. The cement crushed the coffin, suffocating him. It was kind of like a morbid homage to Houdini, who had also died on Halloween night. Number 5. Janessa and the Milk Can. Houdini had made his name in part from the milk can escape, an often imitated trick in which the magician is stuffed into an oversized container full of water, locked in and given only moments to escape before drowning. Roydon Joseph Gilbert Raison de la Janessa, or simply Janessa, was among those paying tribute to the illusion in a 1930 performance. The secret of the trick was that the neck of the container could come off, so locking the lid made little difference. What Janessa didn't realize was that the prop had been dropped during transit, creating a dent that sealed the neck and prevented it from moving. Though he was roused briefly at the hospital, Janessa died as a result of the incident. Number 4. Charles Bowen and the Moving Car. Charles Bowen, also known as Car the Magician. In 1930, Car was performing in Springfontein, Orange Free State, South Africa. He was attempting a very dangerous stunt in which he was tied up in a straitjacket while a man drove straight at him in a car. The car approached from 200 yards away, accelerating to a speed of 45 miles per hour. If you do the math, that would give Carr about 10 to 15 seconds, depending on how long it would take the driver to get up to that speed, to get out of the straitjacket and get out of the way of the car. But he was too slow. He was unable to escape in time, and he was run over. The incident was so brutal, it almost severed his leg. This happened in front of a large group of people, including small children. Before he died, he exonerated the driver of any wrongdoing. Number 3. Princess Tenko and the Swords. This Japanese performer, known for her outlandish costumes, was on stage in the city of Sabay in 2007, when her show devolved into a brutal spectacle. Tenko was stuffed into a box where she was to become a pincushion for 10 incoming swords if she didn't escape in time. She did not, and the swords wound up breaking several ribs and her cheekbone. Amazingly, the princess finished her performance before seeking medical attention. Number 2. Vivian Hensley and the Razor Blade. Dr. Hensley was performing his own trick called swallowing the rusty razor blade for his young son. He did the trick by pretending to slip the razor blade into his mouth, while actually he was slipping it down the sleeve of his coat. On July 6, 1938, while performing the trick, he slipped up and accidentally dropped the razor down his throat. His wife made him eat cotton balls as she drove him to the hospital. Despite a battery of x-rays and 2 bouts of surgeries, the doctors were unable to locate the razor, and he died 4 years later. Number 1. Janaka Bosna and the world record. Humans need water, food, and most importantly, air in order to live. Which brings us to the sad tale of 24-year-old Janaka Bosna from Sri Lanka. Bosna was trying to beat the world record for longest time buried alive. When most magicians do this, there's an escape illusion they perform so they don't actually spend time buried. The exception to that, however, is David Blaine, who actually did spend 6 days being buried alive. But he was a professional with a team of experts. Bosna wasn't a professional. Instead, on March 5, 2012, he got his family to bury him in a pit 3 meters, or 10 feet, deep, and then cover it with soil and wood. He was buried for 7.5 hours before being dug up. They found him not breathing and took him to the hospital, where he was pronounced dead. What's your favorite magic trick? Mine was when my grandpa used to pull a quarter from behind my ear, mostly because if he messed it up, he didn't die. Let us know, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this one every day.